Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create faux abalone. So we're going to start with a skinner blend, and now you will have seen the colour recipes I showed at the beginning of the video, and it was 6 pearl white to 1 green and 6 pearl white to 1 blue. And now you can use Primo if you want, just swap the green and blue Kato for green Primo and turquoise Primo, and that will work just fine. So we've got a skinner blend here, and I have silver Kato, the green colour mix that we have, pearl white, and the blue colour mix that we have. And I'm going to turn this into a skinner blend. Like that. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to fold that in half and in half again. Just make sure you get out all those air bubbles, and then just press in these edges, because you will have some little cracked edges and things like that. After all, it is Kato. So just squish that in, get everything together, and then run it through from this end to this end through the pasta machine, so you're lengthening your blend. There we are, so there's the blend. Okay, now we're going to start on the grey side, and we're going to just fold it a bit because it's all grey on this side, so I'm just doing it the fast way. There we go. Okay, then you want to fold it like you would a normal skinner blend plug. Just by folding it, whoops, over like that, until you have completed your entire skinner blend. There we go. Let me just get rid of any little bits of silver they are left. Okay. Now you just want to press that all together so it's one plug. Now I'm going to stand up to do this. Put your entire weight onto it to get it all together. And now what we want to do is we want to squish this into shape, and then once it's in shape, what you want to do is this side, or not, you can't measure this side up here or over here, you need to measure the actual size of the skinner blend. This needs to be 2.5 centimeters high, exactly. And this is important because there's an exact amount of times we need to stack this with the black on top as well, and so it's important to get the measurements right. So I'm going to squish this down until I've got exactly to 2.5 centimeters high, and then we'll apply the black. There you are, I've got it to 2.5 centimeters. Now I'm going to bring over a sheet of black that is 2 millimeters thick, and I'm going to pop that onto the silver side. And I'm just going to trim. There we are. Get rid of that. And let me just squish that down as well. Now what I want to do is we want to reduce this down until we can roll it out into a 2 millimeter thick sheet. So I just need to get this down. And now for those of you that use Primo the most, I did say what the colour recipe was so that you can replace this with Primo, so don't think that you just have to do it with Kato, because I know that for some of you Kato is a little bit hard. So don't hesitate to use primer. And don't hesitate to play around with the colours a little bit. I find that these ones look the best, but if you wanted to play around with it, you can of course do that. Just keep the 6 pearl white to 1 colour ratio. I find that works best. Okay, just rolling this down. And also the skinner blend makes quite a big difference. You might think that it will be fine to just take the blue, stack that on the white, then take the white and the blue, stack that on the green, and then take that and stack it onto the black, stack it onto the silver, and then take it onto the black, and then just stack that sheet over and over again. But the actual skinner blend helps, it creates a soft transition between the colours instead of it being choppy, so it really does make a difference. So everything that I'm showing you here is very important to stick to get the right result. Okay, so that should be thin enough for me to start rolling it through my pasta machine, because I don't want to break my machine. Okay, rolled out onto my thickest setting, which was 2 millimeters thick. It seems. There, I just want to trim up these edges. Because I don't want this. There we go. Okay, now we need to stack this 3 times. And just like you would a normal makume garner, you just stack it like that. Then once you've stacked it 3 times, roll it down to a 2 millimeter sheet again. Okay, and while we're doing this, take one of your knuckles and press into your stack. And you can use your fingers as well to do that. Okay, and we're just pressing these layers out of alignment when we're doing that. Okay, now I'll just press it back in and I'll roll it out again. Okay, rolled out. Gonna just quickly trim up. And keep all those leftovers, you can always use them for other things. There we go. Alright, now I want to stack it 4 times. And just before we actually layer it, I want to take each piece, and now you can use your fingers to do this, but I want to actually use some ball tools to make it easier. And I'm going to use them to press these layers out of shape. And any ball tools will work. And what we're doing here is we're just messing with those layers. So you can use your knuckles to do this, but it can hurt after a little while, especially if you're working with harder clays like this. So use a ball tool, it will work much better. And don't worry about keeping the ball tool around, you can move it around and that will create some nice effects. Okay, Now that we've done that, I'm going to stack the layer, press it together. So I'm going to be working out the air bubbles as I do that. I'll lift it up and press from this side as well. And feel around just to make sure that I haven't trapped any air bubbles. And I'll take the next one, press it on, and just check for any air bubbles. Okay, next one. Pop that on, and then press together while feeling for air bubbles. Okay. Now what you want to do is you want to form this back into a block and get out any of these little bits and pieces. So I'm just going to roll it, and what I'm doing is I'm just rolling it so that I can find the air bubbles. So like there's a few here on the bottom layer. So slice, smooth out a bubble, slice, smooth out the bubble. Bubble there, okay. And then I'm going to press it back together into a stack that is 1 centimetre high. And I just need to check how high that is. That's about high enough. Okay, I'm just going to press. Alright, now we are going to slice. So just make sure that it's well stuck to your tile, and it might actually help to just gently roll across the top here to even it out, because some of these edges aren't straight. Okay, and let's slice. There we are. And you can see that each side is going to be slightly different. But the stacking means that you're going to get the exact right pattern, because if you do it so that you don't have enough. Oh, excuse me, let me start again. If you stack it too much, this pattern's going to be too close together. If you don't stack it enough, the pattern's going to be too spread out. So this is my preference as far as an abalone pattern. I think this is the perfect grounds. It's not too close together, but it's not too spread out. And the width of the black line is small enough for my liking compared to all of the others. And if you look here, you can see that the other colours are really nicely shaded. There's not a sudden line between them, it's a nice soft line, which is why we did the skinner blend. So that is how I create faux abalone. Now, you can mess around with the colours. Like I said before, you get lots of different colours. I'm going to be messing around and I'm going to try and make faux pois shell, because that's a really bright shell and I would love to make that. So I'm just going to press this down because it's giving me a little bit of trouble. So I want to cut it right, and I actually might try out one of my slices, so let me bring that over. And now this I got a little while ago, and it's called a simple slicer. I got this quite a few years ago actually. And the nice thing is it has these cards, so you can slice your canes. So put it that way around, and then you get this almost like vegetable peeler. So let me just bring that over. And now this is super sharp, so be careful. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a little bit of clay here that I want to get rid of. Don't bring your fingers anywhere near it. If you have something to clean off, use a thick cloth or something else that's not going to hinder your fingers. Now you'll rest it on the edges here. It sits nicely. You don't want to have it too far over like that. Just rest it, and this way it actually is stuck. And then slowly bring it across. There we are. And it will give you a nice clean slice. And it's really easy to use for these thin pieces like this. Canes are a little bit more difficult, and I would recommend the Lucy clay slicer for canes, but the Lucy clay slicer isn't as good when it comes to mukumagane. So if you're using mukumagane, recommend this one. If you're using canes, use the Lucy clay slicer. Now what we'll do is you'll insert another 2 cards. I'm going to insert 3. Insert another 3. Rest that down again. Rest that one in again. Let me see, is it too thick? It's going to be too thick, so I'm going to just take out 1 card. So I'll make each slice 2 cards thick. Okay. There we go. There we go. And you can see it comes out really nice. You can get some nice slices, nice and even and thin. So I'll continue slicing through my abalone, and I'll show you when I am done. Okay, so here they are all sliced, and we've got quite a few slices. So that is the abalone. So now what I want to do is I want to make a bowl. So I've chosen a small little bowl here, as you can see. And so I want to form these all into one sheet. So I'm just going to move some out of the way so that I'm not getting bothered by it too much. And we'll just do this one piece at a time. There we go. Okay. And I'll smooth it out in a little while. I'm just going to place them all on top of each other in the best way that I can to get it to look like there's no seams, or at least make the seams not as obvious as they could be. Okay, and I'm going to try and get it in a roughly round shape. Okay, so I've got that all together, so let me just lift that up so you can see all in one piece. So now I'm going to bring over a piece of plain printing paper, and I'll just pop that on top. Yeah, and then I will bring over another one, and you can see it's clean on this side, and so I'm going to use that side. I don't like to waste my paper, so I like to use it a few times before I throw it away. So now what I need to do is I'm just going to stick it down, and then I'm going to use my roller to burnish this. And this could take a while because it's quite bumpy, but I'm going to burnish it until it's nice and flat. Okay, there we are. Now I did decide to put a sheet of white, and this is probably about 1 millimeter thick. It's pearl white Kato. I decided to put that on the back because I decided that these sheets were too thin and I was having a little bit of trouble smoothing them out. So I just popped this on the back and then burnished it, and so now it is about 1.5 millimeter thick. So now comes the delicate process of working it off your piece of paper. So the best thing to do is to just trim away the white bits, because they're going to get in the way a bit. So let me just trim away those. This is going to be quite a nice bowl, I think. Okay. Then I'm going to very carefully do this because I don't want to slice through. So I'm using a bit of a blunter blade than I would usually use, because that means I have less likelihood of slicing through something. And I'm just twisting around, and I can lift this up and gently scrape along. Now I'll just continue until I manage to lift it off the piece of paper. Now you might be wondering why it has stuck, because if you burnish enough, even on a piece of paper, you will get the clay to stick a bit. So you're going to have to do this. But it'll be worse on a tile. There we are. So just want to show you what this looks like. It looks really nice. I'm quite happy with how that looks. So now we will create our bowl. So I'm thinking I might actually make a larger bowl, since this one will easily be covered by that. So I might bring over a larger bowl. Here we are. We'll use this one. So just take this, pop it around the edges, and work it into the bowl. Now I'm just getting it to stick to the bottom of the bowl, because otherwise you get these annoying air pockets. So because it's Kato, it's not going to stick as much as Primo would, and this can be a good or a downside, because it does make forming the bowl a little bit easier, but when it comes to sticking the sheet down, it can be a little bit harder than it would with Primo. But it does give you more control. So I'm just going from the sides, and I'm really pressing down. And these areas, I'm just going to trim away because they're in the way. So I'll just get rid of that. And on this side too, because we've got enough to work with, so I don't need to worry about kneading this bit. And this will go into leftover clay. There we go. Alright, that will give me some more room to work with, as I can curl over these edges and then start really sticking down some stuff. And try to get all the air bubbles worked into one area so that you can let them all out at one time. And just have that area open so it can get out. Here we go. This is going to be a really nice bowl. Love how it looks so far. And the back, I'm probably going to do some sort of pearl white mica shift. And I'll probably use Primo for that. You can mix brands. When you mix brands, just take the temperatures and go as high as you can. So with Primo and Kato, generally I get it the halfway point between the two temperatures, so that they don't burn. So I generally bake it at a little bit higher than Primo's temperature, and the Kato does just fine. So I'll give you the temperature when I actually bake with the Primo and the Kato. I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm baking with so many different brands that I just generally, just for safety, go and check each of the brands before I actually bake, which you should. So when I do bake for that, I'll tell you. And the thing is, I'm going to be baking with all Kato here, so I will bake it at Kato's normal temperature, and then I'll put the backing on. So the Kato in front over here will already be baked, so there's no risk of actually underbaking the Kato. So actually, in this instance, since I haven't got raw Kato and raw Primo in the same area, I might just bake at Kato's temperature for the first part here. And then later when I add the Primo, I'll bake it at Primo's temperature because I won't need to rebake the Kato. So look how nice that looks. It really looks pretty. Okay, and what I'm doing right now is I'm smoothing first off to get rid of fingerprints, and secondly to just make sure that I haven't got any air bubbles hiding around in here, because if you do have any air bubbles, it means that later on, once you've baked it, you'll see that there are little pop marks all over the place, and it just looks really unpleasant. So I'm just smoothing. Okay. So I'm quite confident that there aren't any air bubbles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go around the edges, and I'm going to press down. And I'll have to smooth for fingerprints later on again, but I'm just pressing down to get those sheets curled around the edges like that. Then I'll place this down and use a craft knife to trim around the edge. There you go. Take that off, and then all these little extra little bits and pieces just clean up around the edge. If you want to see another bowl tutorial, I do have another one. If you go and check out the links in the description below, you will see that I have another bowl tutorial down there. So there will be a link to that down below, so if you want to check that out, please do. Alright, there we go. Now the tricky bit is just getting up again. Here we go. And now it means that from the top you'll only be seeing the abalone, but it also means that you have a nice flush edge around here, so that when you apply the pearl white later on, it won't look like a sudden transition. It will look nice and neat. So now I'm just taking my finger and I'm just smoothing along the edge here for any marks, like there's a little bump there, because I don't want any of that. Now it's really important to take your time to do these sorts of things at the end of your project just before you bake it. It may seem like a small thing and you could possibly skip it and just do with sanding later on, but it really is quite important, and it will save you a lot of time, because with sanding it actually takes about twice as much time than just smoothing it while the clay is raw. So do take the time to go around and smooth away your fingerprints, and then it means that your sanding time is cut down by quite a bit. Some projects I don't even need to sand because I don't have any fingerprints. I mean, sanding, if you're going to be putting a varnish on or a finish on like liquid clay or ice resin, sanding's only really necessary if you have really glaring areas, like you have a smear of another colour across the surface, or if you have like really big fingerprints. So a lot of projects you won't even need to sand if you take care of this before you bake it. Okay, now just go around one more time and smooth, and then I'll put this in the oven for a full hour at Kato's recommended temperature. Now again, remember, you can create the faux abalone with Primo. Just swap the blue and green Kato for green and turquoise Primo. Okay, now go put this in the oven. And another thing to remember is to just take a piece of plain printing paper like that, pop it over the top, and that will shield it from scorching. Okay, and so it is out of the oven and it looks really nice. You can do with a little bit of a sand, of course, but it looks really nice. And I've cooled this down in some water, And now I'm just busy pressing against the sides to get the clay to release. Now just be careful at this point because you can be a little bit rough with it and then it can break if you haven't baked it properly. So just until you've got it off, just go slowly with taking it off. And because we've used Kato, this is quite a bit stiffer than what the Primo would be if you were working with the Primo, which is kind of nice for a bowl. Primo can be a little bit too flexible on its own for a bowl, depending on how thick you decide to make the walls of your bowl. There we go, it's coming out. There we go. And that's looking really, really nice. I'm going to sand the inside here once we're done with the outside, and we'll coat it with some liquid clay to give it a really nice, clean shine. So now what I want to do is I'm going to use my craft knife to gently go around the edge here and just scrape it a little bit. You can see there's a few sharp edges, so I'm just going to use my blade to go around the edge and gently trim away any of these little sharp edges, so that when I'm putting my backing on, I don't end up hurting myself. So just go around like that, and then I am going to apply a pearl white backing, but we're going to do something nice so that backing's a little bit more than just pearl white. We want to do some sort of a cool mica shift. So I'll just quickly go around and then we'll tend to the pearl white. Okay. Okay, so I've rolled out a sheet of pearl white, and this is Primo just because the bowl that we have here is really nice and stiff, so we don't have to worry about using more Kato on this. And I will admit that Primo is a lot softer, and so if I can use it, I will. So we've got a nice sheet of pearl white. So what I want to do now, so I just want to cut it into strips like this. And we're going to do a cool little mica shift for the back of the bowl. I want it to be kind of beachy, but different from the front, so that you have two different effects going on. There we go. Get rid of that. And actually I want to cut these thinner. I've made them a bit too thick. Okay, almost done. Right, I want to get rid of those ones. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is, this relies basically on the mica particles in this. So if you have a look at the pearl white here, hopefully you can see that the edge over here is darker than the front, and that's because of how the mica particles work. If you watch my mica shift tutorial, you'll be able to learn more about that. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to twist. Carry on twisting, carry on twisting. There you go. I'll just twist a little bit more by rolling on the tile. And let me get these out of the way. We'll do the exact same with these as we're doing with the other one. So once you've got it nice and twisted up, you will roll that into a spiral. just like that. And then you'll make a few of those. Some of them you might want smaller, some of them you might want larger. But just keep it like that, don't flatten it just yet. So I'll do that with all of the other ones that I have over here. And then I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so I've put them on the bowl so that I can see how many I'm going to need. And I've got roughly enough. So now you can make a decision. You can either leave it the way it is and you can continue filling in all these gaps and then slice off any bits that are left, but I want to flatten it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start flattening, and I might have to put some more in, but you'll just flatten it out like this, and then any that are overlapping like that, just squish it against the side and fill in any gaps, and we'll trim that off in a little while. And then I'm going to try and squish it in such a way that I can get rid of any of these gaps that are showing, like that. So I probably am going to have to add some more later around some of these edges around here. But you can see as we're flattening it out, it's revealing the mica shift. So just continue until you've got it all flattened out, until you have it nice and leaning up against you. You can stretch it if you're not too worried about getting a very accurate mica shift. I'm just looking for kind of a swirly mica shift. I'm not too worried about if the mica shifts distort a little bit. So if you wanted a really accurate mica shift, it would be better to actually start with the pearl white spirals on the tile. Make a sheet that was big enough to go on your bowl, and then actually burnish it so that you get a really smooth mica shift. But I'm okay with this. So I'm just going to continue until it's all flattened out. There we are. So you can see how it's starting to look really nice. Now just go around the edges and just break off these pieces that are floating over the edge, because they can end up getting stuck in places that you don't want them, and so it's just better to get rid of them. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we need to flatten this out, so I will use the roller as much as I can because it will be easier. There we go. To flatten it out. But I'm going to bring over some paper to do some burnishing as well to get it really nice and smooth. And I'm not worrying too much about fingerprints at this point in time. You can fix that later once we've got it all smooth. There we are, that's pretty good. Roll over the top. Now just grab a piece of paper, and I'm just going to till a small amount because we only need a small amount. Lay it in the specific area that I want smooth, and I will burnish. There we are. You can see that that's pretty smooth. If you see any really big divots that need to be filled in, just use your fingers to smooth that, to bring that in, and then smooth it again. And this is a really nice, easy way to smooth things over. And I'll just continue doing that, and I'll also use the roller in some of these harder areas and I'll just roll until I can't see any bumps or holes anymore. And then that will be the backing. And we'll bake that at Primo's recommended temperature for a full hour. Okay, so I've smoothed it out. Now I'm just going to go around with my hands and I'm going to smooth it out. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish the top over here, and I'm going to use this piece of paper so that I can hold this in place while I smooth, so that I'm not getting fingerprints on the top here. So I'll just move that around a bit and I'll continue smoothing. And we will do a nice sand on both sides, on the back end here and the front, after we've baked this. And then once we've sanded, we're going to give it a coat with liquid clay, which will give it a really nice, almost resin-like finish, which will be nice and shiny, and we'll do that on both sides probably. Okay, that's all nice and smooth. Now, just one more thing to do is actually, I'll do it on this side. I'm going to hold it with this again. I'm going to use my craft blade to trim away any excess. On the edges. There we go. Now grab that, and I'm just going to remember to use this piece of paper. I'm just going to check these edges. If I see any that's left, I'm going to quickly smooth that out the way. We don't want these excess little bits. We got most of it off with our tissue blade, but there will be a few little bits left over. Be really careful not to touch the raw parts. Okay, last thing I want to do, I just want to smooth around the edge, and then I'm going to pop this in the oven at Primo's recommended temperature for a full hour, and I'm going to place a piece of plain printing paper over the top. And I'll show you how I'll bake it in a second. Okay, so I'm going to bake it upside down like this, and then I'm going to have a large piece of this sitting over the top so that it's tenting it. And I'm going to also have a piece of plain paper on the bottom so that we're not going to get any shiny spots. Bake that for a full hour, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay. So this is out of the oven, and I really like how the back has turned out. It's really nice, shiny, swirly, and there's a lot of distinction between the dark pearl white and the light pearl white. So this is a nice way to finish off the back, and I think it matches well with the front. So now what we need to do is we need to sand, and this is a bit of a tedious process, and it's my least favourite part. But you're going to need to sand the back and the front, and if you're going to be putting liquid clay on this, you don't have to sand too much. You just need to sand it so you get a nice smooth finish. You get rid of any major fingerprints that you might have left, get rid of any smudges or anything like that, because the liquid clay won't cover that. But if you've got any, you don't need to get it to a high shine, so just sand from your 400, which I have here, up to maybe your 1000, just to get a nice smooth finish. It gets rid of any oils that might have got picked up in your oven. It gets rid of any dust and lint that got stuck. Gets rid of maybe any other clay bits that you might have accidentally got on your bowl. And it just generally gives it a quick tidy up before you're ready to put the liquid clay on. Now, you can use UV resin as well, the sort that cures really quickly in the UV light. Teresa Pandora sells that on her tiny Pandora site. I'll provide a link to that so you guys can go and check that out. Personally, I prefer the liquid clay. The UV resin can be a little bit finicky for me to work with, and I've used the liquid clay for a while, so I'm going to do a video on how to coat this in liquid clay on Patreon, because Debbie has a paid tutorial on that as well that you could go and check out, Debbie Carruthers, and I'll provide a link to that as well. I'll also provide a link to my tutorial that I will have posted on Patreon, so you guys can go and check that out if you want to. But anyway, I'm going to continue sanding until I've sanded my entire bowl from my 400 all the way up to my 1000 grit. Okay, so here's the bowl now that I have coated it in liquid clay. And I did give it a quick sand, and now I have coated it with liquid clay. If you want to see that tutorial, it is on Patreon, and there'll be a link in the description below. So you can see how beautifully glossy that is, and let me just bring that up for a close-up so you can see the pattern there. Okay, and here is the matte side. So I thought that I wouldn't do this side in liquid clay, because I think one side, which is the focus, should be with the liquid clay, and that's the side that you're mainly going to see. So I want to sand this side up to my highest grit, which is an 8000, I do believe. So I'm going to go and carry on sanding this, and then I'll show you when that's finished. Okay, so here's what the back looks like now that I've finished sanding. You can see it has a nice sheen to it, as you can see. So it's quite different from the front here, which has this really almost watery shine. Well, this one has more of a soft satin shine, which is nice. It gives a different feeling. So that's basically it for this tutorial. I do hope that it was helpful to you. You of course do not have to create the bowl for the faux abalone. You can create pendants, you can create a collar necklace if you wanted to, you could create bracelets. Bracelets would look really nice. You could create a fridge magnet, you could do all sorts of things with it. You could cover a pen with it, lots of things to do. So it's a really cool technique. I wanted to show a project where you'd be able to see a large amount of the faux abalone, so it could really give you an impression of what it looks like. And so now you can go and use it in any technique or project you want. Please do play around with the colours. You can do a lot of different colours with the abalone, so go and have a look at some real abalone, have a look at the colours and play around with it. Maybe add some purples, maybe add some more blues. You can really have a lot of fun with it. You could also take out some of the silver, you could add some more of the pearl white. There's lots of things to do with it, so play around with it. Just use the exact measurements that I gave you. It will give you the best effect possible. And as for the bowl, I do hope that it was interesting to see another bowl tutorial. I hope I showed some new techniques that will help you in future creating new projects. And I just hope that this tutorial was overall really helpful to you. And so if you would like to support me, I do have a Patreon account, and it would be super helpful if you could go over there and sign up. I post lots of tutorials every single month, each of them being exclusive to Patreon or Etsy. I do not post them on YouTube. And if you want to go and have a look at some of the tools I supply, I do texture stamps, I do cutters, I do a whole bunch of all sorts of things on my Etsy shop, Jessama Design. I will also have a link to that in the links below. And please do comment as well and tell me what you like about this tutorial, and also comment on your ideas, what you would do, and also share some photos if you would like on my social media account. And you can get links to that in the links below as well. and so I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.